Hi, good evening everyone, and thank you for watching Isaac at the New York Baltic Film Festival. I'm here with director Jurgis Matulevičius, and we will have a little Q&A to hopefully give you a broader understanding of the film you've just seen and kind of look behind the scenes. So thank you, Jurgis, for being here in New York with us. And let's just jump straight in. So as far as I understand, the film is based on a novel, a short story by a Lithuanian author, which I haven't read. But I would love for you to talk to me about what you loved about this writing and the subject matter that inspired you to make it into a film.
Yeah, so hello everyone. This film is adapted from a short story by Nybff. He's a Lithuanian writer who lived in the 50s and the 60s he lived in the United States, basically in New York. When I read him at school, I really fell in love in his stream of conscious writing. He was a modernist writer. I think he reminds me of a beatnik generation, like William Burroughs. And the funny thing that he wrote before then, even. So yeah, and the he's not well known in the world because he couldn't write in English and he couldn't think in English. So I read the story, after finishing. In the last year when I was studying directing in the film school, and I was really shocked by this short story, Isaac, which tells a story about a Lithuanian who kills a Jew in a Lietuvos garage massacre, and after 20 years, he's haunted by the guilt. And the story by Nybff took place in America, in Chicago, in Michigan. I wanted to. I showed the story in Soviet Lithuania because I wanted for the main character to be closer to the murder itself, and to walk, through these places where it was done, to be just more closer to the main subject of this film, which is just guilt.
Right. So the KGB investigation into it, you added that to the film.
Yeah.
Can you talk about the KGB presence and the officer in your film and why you chose to?
So this process, it has the elements of detective, which I really wanted to put into the story, the Gediminas character, the director, he's a character which me and my scriptwriters invented as well, and put it to the story, and the KGB agent. So he's from, I think, he's from another drama of Nybff. And Alana's character is from another short story of Nybff. But these all characters are really connected because they're his characters, and they were in his writing.
So you've connected with Schema to the degree that it's kind of an homage to him from a. And so it's interesting, in the beginning you mentioned stream of consciousness, and which is the style, not the content, and did that affect your style as well?
Yeah, of course. Because this film doesn't have this narrative, which is clear. You know, we're jumping in time in places, and we jump from you know, real world to a world of a dream, I guess, a very bad dream. So yeah, I was very influenced by his, you know, writing, and also you know, it's like a post-war generation, you know, depressive, catastrophic.
The atmosphere, or?
Well, yeah, well, the atmosphere and the characters, you know, everything there, you know, they remind Kafka, Camus, the writers who I really love, and yes, so that's, and they were my inspiration for my short films, and yeah, and then I discovered that there is Lithuania, and you know, nobody in Lithuania, nobody did a story by this writer, you know. So yeah, I was the first one, and that's what I really liked.
So can you talk about more about the cinematography? Because there's a lot of, you know, long takes and kind of the slow development. And how did you work with your cinematographer to kind of develop that?
Yeah. So my idea for this film was to, well, to one scene, one take, you know, one shot, and yeah. So I created this, you know, this all my script with the long scenes, and yeah. So every scene was from, you know, from 3 to 8 minutes, something like that, and yeah. So we were shooting only a couple of scenes per day because well, because of the amount of you know, the amount of drama, and you know, and the people. So
yeah, can you talk about maybe the first scene as well? Because I feel like that is such a shock. Like it shocks you into attention, and you pay attention for the rest of the film. Does that does the short story start like that, or was
yes,
that okay?
Yes, it starts like that, and I think that's, you know, the only thing from the writer's story which I in which I precisely follow him, you know, and yeah. So it's an 8-minute take. We shot it for the whole day. We did like 27 takes. We were preparing for 2 days for that shot because it had, you know, lots of people involved and animals, special effects, like, you know, shot.
And how did you decide the choreography? Did you do research into the event, or?
Yeah, well, there is 17 photographs which are real from this event, and yeah, and well, in 1964 they appeared in the German archives, and yeah, so I found them in the KGB archives of Lithuania, and I really followed the photographs because and Schema, how he described this massacre. It's yeah, well, so the photographs really look alike, like a story, and vice versa, and I really tried to portray as it was written and as it was shot in these photographs. So yeah.
No, yeah, you did a great job, because I feel like it's, yeah, you get taken right into that scene and that situation.
Yeah, well, and you know, I really like the floaty camera, and you know, I like to use lots of natural light or the light that you can see in the frame, you know, just bulbs. So for my cinematographer, I guess it was kind of difficult to shoot because you couldn't place any lights, artificial lights, because I like to shoot 360 degrees around. And so we were preparing for these shots, and I was, we were, one of our preparation was that we, it was like a dance for me, and cinematographer, I was always behind him, putting him in the angles I like. So and I really like to get into everything when I'm doing the film. So so in every location I was working with the set designer, preparing it together. From making a bed to painting the walls and bringing different things and putting them in places and yet as well as when doing music for this film with my sister, I was playing some parts.
You compose a little bit as well, or you play around with it?
No, well, I finished musical school. I was playing piano, and I really like to get involved, as I said, in everything. Well, maybe I'm a little bit of a control freak, but
I mean, it's very cohesive
film,
so it
I really like to do that. It's,
I'm
just really into everything, every detail.
So to jump a bit more about the content, some people might be surprised that the KGB cares about crimes during the Second World War because you don't associate them with fighting for justice. So he doesn't come off as sympathetic per se, but he does have kind of understand. So can you talk about why he would do that?
I think that this is a character who's really egocentric, I guess, and he's really he's after promotion, and so that's why he digs this, very big crime, and I read that there were these prosecutors who were after this Wiesenthal award, which you can get from Israel when you.
So they had issued an award to look into the crimes of the
Holocaust.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. So I read it somewhere, and it really struck me that So we just created a character around it, and in the end of the film, he tells that he wants to start even a bigger, investigation. He wants to investigate the KGB, and that's the end of him. The major makes a call, and he's gone. And we actually shot the scene where he's murdered, but I think it was. Well, it's obvious, from the call. And so many things in this film decided by the calls, by the telephone. And
that's a pervasive theme throughout the. And then I also want to ask you about the reception, because you are muddying, you're making it a little more of a gray area, this looking back at history. Were you expecting any backlash in Lithuania? I don't know how it's talked about in society.
You can make films about Lithuanians rescuing Jewish people during the Holocaust, and you can make films about the other side of history. And I was just really interested in that. And I don't know. Every country has its indecent history, and I think that it's time to talk about that. And of course, we have this problem in Lithuania because the people who were collaborating with Nazis in 1941, later when the Soviets came back in 1944, so during the 1949. they were going to the woods as a partisans. They started a partisan movement, and they're, so they're, as they say, they're the heroes of our country. But 10 years ago, they were collaborating with Nazis. So of course, this is a very I think a very difficult theme to portray and to understand to the viewer, because this part of history during the occupation of our country is really tricky, and there is no one straight answer.
Right, and I think maybe you're the first generation, or we are, I'm assuming we're the similar generation, that can look at that and dare to maybe make it a bit more grey about these.
Yeah, because we're just a little bit further away from the actual happening of this, and it's just kind of it's easier for us to talk about this because I don't have a grandfather or grandfather who was in there, so it's my point of view is I don't know, it's not personal, it's just
but and I think it's important to start looking at history a little differently. So and how has it been received? Have you traveled to festivals? Like, what's been the kind of audience? I understand that maybe not in person, but have you gotten kind of a sense of what people are reacting to?
But so for the audience from abroad, they're very interested that this little country had this big history behind it, and it's new for them. But lots of people look at this film as a work of art, and they're more into cinema, not it was received really good, and was showed in a couple A-class festivals. It was nominated for a Discovery Prize. So it's a very good start for me, and
because it's your first feature, right?
It's my first feature. I put so much work into it. I was doing it for 5 years. And and it took so long because of the money problems, but it gave me time to redo and rethink everything, and that's why I could be composing at the same time as set designing and rewriting the script for 1,000 times. I'm really happy that I could do it in this way, and I think I'm never gonna do it in that way, because all my friends were working in this film almost for nothing.
Right.
It's kind of once in your lifetime you have this opportunity to do the film like this, and it's very good because it's your first film and you don't really know how to make films. And
do you have any plans for a next film, or are you relaxing after this big project?
No. I already done a short documentary which was premiered in Sheffield Doc Film Festival in 2021. And I'm preparing for my second feature called China Sea.
China Sea?
Yeah. Well, it's a name of a restaurant somewhere in Eastern Europe.
Somewhere in Eastern Europe?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
No, thank you for sharing the film for us and with us. And I connected with it deeply, so that's why I'm so happy to be able to screen it here and with a live audience for the first time. And thank you for joining us for this talk. And I look forward to China Sea. All right. Thank you, everyone. And don't forget that films are still available until November 14th, so please keep watching online.